Hello everyone, welcome back to another Fighter Spotlight tier list video where we are going to be looking at Patchy Mid, the newest fighter to be signed by the UFC, and he is going to be fighting everyone's favorite fence humper, Mario Bautista, at UFC 316 behind Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley for the Bantamweight strap. And talking of the Bantamweight division as a whole, we're going to be comparing Patchy Mid, his skills, his ability to every single bantamweight fighter within that top 15, starting with Vinicius Oliveira and going all the way down or up to Merab Dvalishvili. And we're going to be doing that through a tier list. And here is said tier list to see how Patchy Mid goes against the UFC Bantamweight's top 15, who are all at the bottom of your screen, all in order right now. And here are the tiers. So the tiers are best matchups at the top in bright green. That is where Patchy Mid wants his opposition. He wants the fighters in here because that's where I'm believing that he's going to be more of a moderate favorite, possibly even a heavy favorite, especially stylistically going into that matchup. And then the lower down it goes, the harder it gets for him. So slight favorite, he's still a favorite, but it's a little bit tougher. Evenly matched, pretty much pick and mods, very close fight. Tough matchup, he's more of a slight underdog. It's definitely going to be a tough matchup. And then nightmare matchup, self-explanatory. I don't think there's going to be a lot of hope for Patchy Mid within a matchup stylistically there. It's going to be a nightmare for him. So before we get into the tier list, just to give a bit of background about Patchy Mid and who he is, which I explain a lot more in his Fighter Spotlight video, go a lot more in depth within his disciplines of striking, wrestling, grappling, his career highlights, his physical differences, key points, and everything I go through that video, which is just on the screen now, and I'll leave that in the description. But looking at Patchy Mid, just very quick and concise, he is an elite grappler. He's got a diverse arsenal of takedowns. He's got very, very good submissions. Just a nightmare of a grappler to deal with. And he's got very good control, good transitions on the ground. And on the feet, it's where he is more so lacking overall. He's definitely more of an offensive grappler, very aggressive grappler, which is very nice to see in this division because, yes, we have guys like Merab Dvalishvili, we've got Umar Nurmagomedov, who are guys are very like heavy control-based guys. This guy is a submission offensive threat freak. He has almost double the amount of submissions that Umar Nurmagomedov has in this division. And he is very, very good from all positions when it comes to submission offense. And when we look through the rankings, that isn't really highlighted anywhere. So it's good to have that depth there. And when we look at him on the feet, definitely contrasted in a worse way for sure. He's good with his straight strikes. He's got like a pretty good reach as well. He's got one of the longest reaches in the division at 71.5 inches, and he's got good kicks, good knees, good just straight strikes in general. But his striking does lack. He's got pretty poor strike defense, doesn't have the best head movement. He's not the greatest on the back foot as well. And he is a pressure-heavy fighter, so if there's fighters that can pressure him backwards, he can be in a bit of trouble, especially with the lack of that head movement. So that's kind of a bit of a breakdown as to who Patchy Mid is. Just a really, really good grappler. Has some more things on the feet that need to be developed, but overall, he definitely is a high caliber fighter. Definitely a good threat to this division coming in, and that's why he's getting a top 10 fight against everyone's favorite Mario Bautista. But without further ado, let's get into the tier list, starting off with Vinicius Oliveira. Vinicius, this guy's looking like a freak of nature. He is a good fighter coming through the rankings. He's got a lot of power. He's very strong, and he's just someone that is just going to be tough for anyone to deal with realistically, and he's someone that can create more of a pressure seesaw. He's someone that can really forward pressure, then Patchy Mid could really forward pressure, and whoever is getting put on that back foot is more so going to struggle. And when it comes to the feet, Vinicius, I don't think, is the most technical overall. He is technical, but not the most. He's not like a Sean O'Malley or anything like that, but he does have power. And there is that opportunity where Vinicius could definitely chin Patchy Mid if he's putting him on the back foot. But that is where, on the ground game, with the ground game in contrast, which is going to be a reoccurring theme here, Patchy Mix is going to have the advantage there on the ground, but he's going to be very difficult to control. Vinicius is going to be very difficult to control because he's very strong. Saeed Nurmagomedov was having a lot of challenges with that, and Saeed is a very good fighter. And Vinicius, I will say, he's just not like super well versed when it comes to the ground game, but I got to put him as a tough matchup, honestly. Like, I was really thinking about evenly matched, but just the physical presence, the physical threat he's got, the KO power he has. I mean, the guy's got a lot of momentum as well. He's a very dangerous fighter, and with that strength on the ground, it's going to be harder for Patchy Mix to really control and really hunt subs, and Vinicius Oliveira has never been submitted before, so he's definitely a tougher matchup, to be honest. He's a lot to deal with. Now, moving on to Montel Jackson. Montel is more so much of the same when it comes to Vinicius Oliveira's game. Montel is very rangy. He's got good wrestling, great takedown accuracy, which is not really usable in this fight with Patchy Mix, because Patchy invites the takedown. He loves it. He wants his guard literally right there. He wants people in his guard, and yeah, Montel Jackson, I don't think that wrestling is going to be coming in real clutch within this kind of fight. But Montel, we know he's got KO power. He's very lengthy. He's got good straight strikes. But he's not super pressure heavy. And that's something that where I feel like that makes Vinicius Oliveira a bit more of a threat in relation to that. But still, he's got the KO power there, but I think it's more of an evenly matched fight. I think when it comes to the grappling and getting taken down, Montel doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. He's got decent takedown defense, but I think it's something that Patchy Mix could take advantage of. And when we look at that KO power on the feet versus that grappling and being able to get taken down, I do see it as a pretty evenly matched fight. Now, Marcus McGhee. Marcus McGhee is kind of similar to both the other two as well. He is trickier though, because he can be pushed on the back foot. I think easier than the two of those guys. But he does have very heavy power. He's never been taken down in the UFC. So we don't necessarily know how adept he is on the ground when it comes to actually getting taken down there. However, he has been submitted before. He's been taken out by a rear naked choke before the UFC. I believe it was before the UFC. And there is at least some form of identifiable hold there. But, I mean, that could be sealed now. There's just a lot of unknowns to Marcus McGhee, which does make it tricky. But he does have power. But I do think that Patchy Mix would have that ability to get him to the ground, to be honest. I think, and he's just a very adept. There's a polar contrast when it comes to his submission-based ability. Patchy Mix's having like 13 submissions against Marcus McGhee and what he has to offer on the ground. I just don't see it going in his favor that well when it gets to the ground ultimately. And I think Patchy Mix can do it, but more of an unknown, but I'm going to have to put him lower in the evenly matched, closer to that slider favorite, to be honest. Now, Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips, Jesus Christ over here. He's pretty similar stylistically to Patchy Mix. I mean, he doesn't have one-hit KO power, neither does Patchy, but he has some decent transitional capabilities on the ground. He's somewhat of a decent grappler. He's good with his volume. He's just good with his wrestling as well. But again, going into a matchup like this, it's not going to be that usable against a guy like Patchy Mix. Patchy is also longer, can really use straight strikes against Kyler Phillips as well, which we could see Rob Font do very well. And granted, Kyler's well-rounded, but I just think the pedigree overall in how good Patchy Mix is with that ground game, it's just going to eclipse Kyler's game there. And I don't think Kyler has enough to offer on the feet to really, really worry Patchy Mix, like pressuring him backwards, really outstriking him with the volume. I do believe that Patchy Mix is going to be a slight favorite against Kyler Phillips in their matchup, to be honest. Now, moving on to number 11, 11th ranked Aiemann Zahabi, which he had a controversial win over Jose Aldo recently, which was a fantastic fight. But Aiemann, the thing with him is I would put him in slight favorite, but it's the boxing pedigree. He's going to go at lower of evenly matched. It's the boxing pedigree there, which he can forward pressure very effectively. He's got really, really nice high output combinations, like 3 to 4 piece combos. He throws like a triple jab to a hook. Like, it's really, really clean, really nice. And with him being able to do that, mix that up against Patchy Mix, who doesn't have the greatest head movement, he's really winning those fights on the feet, to be honest. And he's not that small a guy either. Even though Patchy is big, still Aieman's not that small. And also as well, Aiemann Zahabi does have pretty good takedown defense, and I don't think it's enough. I mean, I think he can stay on the feet for at least a bit of time, but yeah, if it gets to the ground, he's going to be in a bit of trouble. So it's really those polar opposites there of the ground game. Aieman's in a lot of trouble. On the feet, he's going to be doing pretty well. So he's got to be pretty evenly matched there, just really dependent on where the fight goes. Now, moving on to everyone's favorite, Mario Bautista. This is a very tricky matchup, to be fair. And of course, it's the one that we actually fucking get. Very tricky to analyze because both of the guys are well-rounded, but I would edge the striking overall just to Mario Bautista, but most of all to Mario, I would definitely edge the stamina. The stamina is going in Mario Bautista's favor. If this was a 5-round fight, I would be more comfortable with where I'd be putting him. But the fact that it's 3 rounds, and granted, Bautista, good with the wrestling, but the ground game, Patchy Mix does eclipse him pretty well within that area. And I think within clinch-based exchanges as well, I think Patchy Mix does have a bit more of an advantage against the fence, to be honest. You see Mario Bautista hold Jose Aldo, Patchy Mix is pretty good against the cage himself. So I do think, honestly, I think that he's going to be a slight favorite. I think that Patchy Mix is going to be it should be a slight favorite within that matchup against Bautista, which he is. It's about $1.50 to $2.50. So Bautista's like a plus 350 overall. And I agree with that, to be honest, moving into UFC 316. I think if Bautista can get off the mark quick, really fluster with volume, just really get aggressive in the first round, there's definitely that opportunity for him there. But big problem with Bautista, he's not a super big power striker. I mean, he has landed some nice shots, like nice knees and everything, and so has Patchy Mix. But that's where I think their striking game is honestly very even. But when it comes to any form of wrestling to grappling, you just got to give it to Patchy Mix. And that's where I think he's just got the stronger avenue to be the slight favorite in that fight. Now, moving on to Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo, I've got to put him, honestly, in evenly matched. Probably just a bit behind Montel with that power threat that he has. But the reason why it's going to be evenly matched, of course, is the wrestling and defensive abilities that Henry Cejudo has with the experience that he has as well against Patchy Mix, who is that very high caliber fighter who is a lot younger as well, a lot more, he's just a lot quicker. And Patchy isn't like explosive enough to catch Cejudo out on the feet or anything like that, and he's going to be tricky to take down. But these guys are going to be very neck and neck when it comes to their abilities on the feet. And Henry is ultimately, like, you got to give it to Henry, he is ultimately the better wrestler. But again, it comes down to the grappling offense of Patchy Mix, like that submission-based ability, and if he could catch Henry Cejudo out. There's a lot of questions there when it comes to the feet and the ground game, and that just makes them evenly matched, to be honest. Now, moving on to Rob Font. Rob Font's like pretty much the same as Zahabi, to be honest. Just very good clinical boxing, good high output combinations, good straight strikes. He's got some decent-ish reach, and he's going to be able to out-strike Patchy Mix, to be honest. But the ground game, he can get exposed. If Cory Sandhagen is completely controlling Rob Font, then Patchy Mix is going to put in some damn work against him. And that's where I think, honestly, takedown defense, statistically, the difference between these two, I've got to put Rob Font in as a slight favorite. Not Rob Font as a slight favorite. Obviously, Patchy Mix is a slight favorite. That does make it kind of tricky within the tier list. But yes, I think it's just that takedown defense of Rob Font is a little bit more wide open for Patchy Mix to expose, to be honest. So yeah, Aiemann Zahabi is a little bit more of a problem because his defensive capabilities are just a bit stronger from what I've seen. Now, moving on to Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera, obviously is dangerous on the feet. We've seen what he did to bloody Frankie Edgar. We've seen what he's bloody done to Dom Cruz. You know, he has got power. He's got tools from a lot of different avenues. He's got good Muay Thai. He's got good boxing overall. But the ground game is just absolutely fucking non-existent. And that's where he is going to get eaten alive. Like, it's just plain and simple. If Cejudo is getting taken down easily by a lot of these different fighters, even at this time in his career, and is just getting drowned out, like Mario Bautista, very confident that he would be able to beat Marlon Vera, just grind him out 30-27. Like, Cejudo just has a very overrated grappling game. He doesn't have any real offensive threat on the ground for the quality of opposition that are in the top 15. It's just a seismic hole in his game. And with Patchy Mix having that caliber of ground game, Patchy would swallow Marlon Vera to the point where I think he would actually submit Marlon Vera, to be honest. I think that is the best matchup that he can have. Now, moving on, it's not going to get any easier here now. Deiveson Figueiredo. Deiveson's obviously got power. He's the first fighter to ever drop bloody Marlon Vera, so we know he's got power. He's does have a submission game, but his record is overrated. His submissions heavily have came from very early in his career against literally, you cannot even universally compare the quality of opposition that Deiveson Figueiredo submitted to the caliber of opposition that Patchy Mix will be. There's just no chance. Like, Deiveson is at a disadvantage on the ground without a doubt. He is explosive, but he's also not getting any younger, and he does make stupid mistakes. We've seen him in the 50-50 with Cory Sandhagen literally just recently. Yeah, I just don't like the game from him against a guy like Patchy Mix, especially with Patchy also having the length against him too, like a considerable height and length advantage against Deiveson Figueiredo. I don't like that, but Deiveson, at the end of the day, the guy is a former champion. He does have power in his hands. He's got good combinations on the feet as well, and that's where I got to put it in evenly matched. I still think he's going to be behind Montel. I think Montel is just seriously dangerous with the length that he has and that power. So yeah, I'm putting him in evenly matched as well. Now, Song Yadong, he is a pain in the ass for Patchy, I do believe. Just the explosivity. The explosivity is an issue because if you ever watch Patchy Mix versus Juan Archuleta really getting off the mark quick, using high volume combinations, pushing him against the fence, ripping the body, that was really messing up Patchy Mix's game. Like, really just stuffing up his breathing apparatus, everything. And that is what Song Yadong does. Song Yadong is very explosive, pretty much from all areas, even on the ground. He's not going to be easy to take out. He's like the most explosive fighter we have in this division, and he's got the hand speed, he's got the power, he's got decent takedown defense as well. And realistically, we haven't actually seen many actual major ground game holes, which, if there's going to be any to expose, Patchy Mix will be able to, but I just think the striking there is just too dangerous. It is too dangerous. He's too explosive. He's someone that can push Patchy on the back foot. I mean, we saw what Song Yadong was doing against Henry Cejudo. We even saw Song Yadong again in the first round against Petr Yan. I mean, we know he's damn dangerous. Like, Chris Gutierrez was getting minced. You know, Song Yadong, very dangerous, as well as being similar within the age range as well. Yeah, I think he's just going to have a little bit too much on the feet for Patchy Mix if they were to fight. Now, Cory Sandhagen. Sorry, I will flip these around. Now, Cory Sandhagen. Cory is definitely just a tricky customer wherever you are. Honestly, we saw what he did against Deiveson Figueiredo recently. Great with his 50-50s, fantastic scrambling. Even he showed that against Umar Nurmagomedov to a great extent. And on the feet, he does outwork Patchy pretty well, pretty easily, I do believe. He's also got that frame there, similar to Montel Jackson. He's a guy that is going to pose new problems to Patchy Mix going into this division. Better strike offense, very good ground defense. He's just going to be a high-level puzzle that Patchy Mix is going to struggle to solve, and I'm going to have to, I'm going to put him above Song Yadong, to be honest. Song Yadong, obviously super explosive, but Cory's fight IQ overall, Cory is able to beat Song Yadong. And don't get me wrong, styles make fights, but Cory is just too hard a puzzle for Patchy Mix to solve, especially on the feet. And taking Cory down, man, if these guys are fighting and they have a full training camp, Cory is going to do everything in his power to stop that grappling. And the explosivity on the feet, too dangerous. Too dangerous, I do believe. Patchy Mix is just not adept enough when it comes to the striking yet. Now, Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar, when it comes to the grappling exchange with Patchy Mix, absolutely insane. And I do like the striking style of Umar that Patchy would have to deal with. That Taekwondo, especially being on the back foot, that is where it's going to be tricky, I think, for Patchy Mix to really deal with those flinging kicks at all these different angles, especially with Patchy being so tall, being so upright, having that chin out as well, which he does. Patchy's extremely durable, but when he's going into these fights against these guys where Umar does have power, we've seen what he did to Hani Barcelos. I mean, yeah, Umar has troubles for him on back foot, on front foot, and on the ground. I mean, Patchy, it's not an easy day at the office for him. Granted, I think Patchy ultimately is a little bit better with the grappling, tiny bit, more so with the submission game, not necessarily the wrestling game. Realistically, like 50-50. But Umar, I think just with that striking difference, he is a tough matchup. I would put him here, probably a little bit below Cory. I think Cory, just with the puzzle that he is to solve, and with the ability that Cory has on the feet with the strike accuracy and those different unorthodox techniques like the flying knees and everything, and the movement especially, humongous problem. Now, Petr Yan. Patchy is getting absolutely outclassed with the striking there, and unless Patchy is just bum rushing Yan to take him down instantly, I think he is going to struggle badly to get Petr Yan down. Much lower center of gravity. Very, very difficult to take down as it is. I mean, Merab had 50 million of his takedowns stuffed, and they are the same center of gravity. They're both extremely short. But Patchy having to get down that low to really try and take Yan down, if he's not taking him down, he is getting completely outclassed. And over 5 rounds, I think Yan would honestly just knock him out. I do think that Patchy Mix would get taken out by Petr Yan. And when it comes to 3 rounds, I think, because Yan is a slow starter, and Patchy Mix does have that grappling offense, don't get me wrong, and I think he can get Yan down, but not as often as he would need to be honest. So I just think that in the 3 rounds, he does have a decent chance to get cage-based control to take that fight, but I think that is an extreme stretch, and I've got to put him as a nightmare match. I think Yan is the worst fighter that Patchy Mix can face in this division. Now, moving on, Sugar Sean O'Malley, polar opposites in style. Absolute polar opposites. We have not seen Sean O'Malley's ground game within the actual cage to a strong extent. We've seen it against Petr Yan, but as good as Petr Yan is, he's not Patchy Mix with the grappling. If Patchy Mix is grappling with O'Malley, I believe Patchy can submit O'Malley, but then on the feet, if Patchy is staying on the feet, I think O'Malley knocks Patchy Mix out. It's literally 50-50 there, and that's where Sean O'Malley is going at the top of evenly matched. O'Malley is a fantastic striker, but the ground game ultimately needs to be addressed in a fight with a high caliber offensive grappler like Patchy Mix, and that's where it has to be evenly matched. If we saw anything else from O'Malley, I'd put him more to the tough matchup, but yeah, it literally depends where the fight goes between those two. Now, Merab Dvalishvili, this is very interesting. These guys just won't fight, though. I would be very surprised if they did. They're very close training partners through Syndicate MMA. And Merab, he is a tricky customer for literally anyone. He is the Bantamweight GOAT now. Like, he is a fantastic fighter, as we all bloody know. But when it comes to the matchup between Merab and Patchy, Merab obviously has the high-level offensive wrestling. We know that he has absolutely no drop off in cardio, which is the biggest positive for Merab. The biggest positive in this matchup, because Patchy Mix just doesn't have a lot of 5-round experience. Like, he didn't look too bad against Juan Archuleta, even though his body was getting absolutely ripped to pieces. But against Merab, it's just not going to be the same. And Patchy was on the feet most of that fight against Juan Archuleta, and he was still getting pretty tired. Now, if Merab is really dragging into that heavy wrestling game and is able to avoid the submissions, then Merab is going to be a big problem. However, it is Merab having to avoid those submissions, because Merab has never gone against a guy that is this adept with submission offense. That is where Merab really has to be careful. And Merab is a lot smaller. He's not as adept, you know, on the feet as your Yans and your O'Malley's. Like, he's still good. He's still good on the feet, but is he really going to be able to make sure he closes that distance consistently all the time? And then if he wants to take the fight to the ground, he can, but it's not like Merab going against Sean O'Malley. He has to look out for that submission offense on the ground. And if he is staying on the feet the entire time instead against Patchy Mix, it gives Patchy Mix a bit more hope within that matchup. I ultimately think Patchy Mix does better in a fight with Merab than Sean O'Malley does in a fight against Merab. Just stylistically, it is tougher for Merab to deal with, but Merab ultimately, with the cardio, with the experience that he has, just the relentless pace, I do think it's a tough matchup, but I'm going to put it around here. I think all these guys are tougher than Merab stylistically, and Petr Yan is going to be a nightmare, who I think would be able to knock Patchy Mix out. But that is the tier list. I'm really keen to hear what you guys would change, how you guys would really just actually manage this tier list. So definitely leave a comment below and let me know how you would do it. But as you can see from this tier list, it's more so a look at the explosivity and high volume output of strikers and guys that can address the ground game to an extent that are going to be monumental issues for Patchy Mix. Now, any other guys who don't have much of a ground game or just aren't as really like high level dangerous on the feet, with which pretty much all these guys here, I think Patchy Mix has a pretty good chance. But yeah, he's more so, looking at this, my prediction is he's more so a top like 4 to top 10 kind of fighter, I do believe. It's going to be tough for him to get that belt, I do believe. He is young. He's young on the younger side. He's 31 years old, so he's still moving into that prime age range right now, and it's the best chance for him to do it. But I think it is going to be easier said than done for him. But I think he is a fantastic addition to the UFC's Bantamweight division because of the offensive submission game that he does bring. So I'm definitely keen to see him against Mario Bautista for sure, and also see him and how he goes up against the rest of the division. I really want to see him versus Sean O'Malley. That is honestly the best fight to make, I do believe. That one of them's getting submitted, one of them's getting knocked out. I think that is just entertainment just solidified. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this Fighter Spotlight tier list video, and if you haven't already, definitely check out my video on the Fighter Spotlight of Patchy Mix, where I explain everything all about him more in depth. And please like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.